So the Royal Automobile Club, Woodcote and Stirling Moss trophies. A 50-minute race with pit stops mandatory, and we have 55 cars on the grid. Andrew Kirkcaldy starts on pole position in the Lotus 15. You saw Oliver Bryant alongside him in another Lotus 15. Roger Wills in another of those Lotus 15s ahead of John Spires, who starts his Lister Nobly. So this is going to be, again, a battle of light and less powerful versus grunt but heavier. Older, younger, you've got cars like the Mark 1 Lola and the Jaguar D-Type, the sort of cars that won at Le Mans. All sorts of sports racers, and then we get into the sports cars as well. Cars like the Jaguar XK120s and 140s, Aston Martin DB2s, the big Healey's, the Healey 100, all sorts of cars. And then there's some of the tiddlers, like the Turner, like the Elva, the Mark 6 Lotus, and the variety here. Cars that look almost like a road car, like the Bristols and DB24s, and cars that look like nothing else out there. Martin Haven and Alistair Douglas waiting to call the action for you as the cars head out towards the grid. This bumper field of cars. Now, some you will know by sight, some you will know by name, some you may never have seen and never have heard of. And that's, again, one of the delights of a meeting like the festival, is that people drag cars out that have not been seen in public for a long, long time. And for some of our fans, old and young, cars you will have never seen before but only read the names of.
And a mention for the two drivers who are doing a Pearson, we'll call it now. Because an extra entry to your programme, if you're here at the circuit or watching at home and you've seen the online programme, which is well worth purchasing, John Spires and Nigel Greensall are also racing in number 88, which is a Lister Costin, as well as the other Lister that they're racing, which is in the programme, 152, John Spires, Nigel Greensall in the Lister Jaguar Nobly. And so they will be doing their balletic pit stop with Nigel starting in one car. He's actually starting in 88. John Spires starting in 152.
Yeah, so John Spires starts on row 2 of the grid. That's that big sort of dark behemoth there behind the Lotus 11, and 2 rows further back is his other car. That's the lower car with the orange stripes straight up the centre. So no, I beg your pardon, the blue car with the white stripes. Yeah, that's Nigel Greensall. So that's, miscounting my rows. So John Spires starting in 152 will take over 88. Nigel Greensall starting in 88 will take over 152, at least as long as he doesn't break it. So this is a Lister Costin, so the same basic underlying car as the Lister Nobly. So designed by Brian Lister, Jaguar XK6 engine, XK150 engine, whatever, E-Type, D-Type engine, but with a lower, flatter, more aerodynamic body designed by aerodynamicist Frank Costin. So we are getting ready to go after a very brief warm-up lap. They're on treaded tyres, so they don't need a lot of time. 50 minutes awaits. The Royal Automobile Club Woodcote Trophy and Stirling Moss Trophy race getting underway at Silverstone. Andrew Kirkcaldy with the Saltire on his helmet, and the silver Lotus 15 leading the field. The green Lotus 15 with the yellow nose, it's Ollie Bryant, and then the white car of Roger Wills, the man with the Kiwi fern on his helmet, a serial winner in that white Lotus 15, already putting the challenge in on Ollie Bryant for second place as Andrew Kirkcaldy, the tall Scot, leads the field in the Lotus 15. Then the big bang of sports cars, the Lister Nobly and Lister Costin, with another Lotus 15 tucked in. And in fact, 88, Nigel Greensall and his blue Lister Costin has moved up into 6th place already from 8th on the grid, as his fabulous field of 53 cars sweeps out onto the Wellington Straight. Everybody jockeying for position. Andrew Kirkcaldy with the race lead, and Nigel Greensall going by the car that he will take over later as he passes team owner John Spires, or the car's owner John Spires.
and the rest of the field streaming through Brooklands and into Luffield. And what a sight this is. Some lovely colours. Somebody running very wide there. I think that's Michael Birch, is it? Yeah, Michael Birch in one of the other Lotus little sports cars, just running wide at Luffield, but the rest of the field streaming through. A lovely DB2 Aston Martin there in maroon, but back with the leaders again at Copse Corner. And as you say, Nigel Greensall has made up a lot of places. He was 8th on the grid, and I think when we get them back at the timing line, he'll be in the top 5, certainly top 6.
Saw Shane Brereton in the metallic green at Cooper Monaco making a move down the inside. He's moved up the order. He's right behind Greensall. There he is, wagging his tail. So the Cooper Monaco, again, a slightly lighter rear engine car, and the front engine in the Lister Costin 88 of Nigel Greensall. So Greensall in 4th, but a great start from Shane Brereton, 11th on the grid in that light metallic green car with a dark stripe down the middle. So that's a big move up the order on the opening lap, and that little Cooper could really start to wreak some havoc. 33 there, you can see another of the Lister Costins that's driven solo by David Hart, one of the few cars he's not sharing with son Olivier. Nigel Greensall in blue 88 under pressure, but the lead 3 are some of the smaller engine cars. Andrew Kirkcaldy still ahead of Oliver Jarvis, and in 3rd place Roger Wills, just dropping back a fraction there on that first lap. Ollie Bryant, I keep saying Ollie Jarvis, Ollie Bryant, it will drip into my head, thank you.
And these 3 Loti, perhaps we could call them, broken away from 4th placed Nigel Greensall in John Spears' Lister Costin. The rest of the field coming up the Hamilton Straight. Some Austin Healey's there, we can see in Jaguars in the later part of the race, and we will pick up later on the leaders in the Woodcote Trophy, but at the moment we're focusing on the overall and Stirling Moss leaders, and it is Andrew Kirkcaldy who has been racing for a long time, huge amount of experience, similar to Ollie Bryant, who has raced in modern GT cars as well as a whole range of the family's historic racing cars, and those two are slightly starting to pull away now from previous winner Roger Wills. And Roger, being a proud New Zealander, is very, very proud to own this car, because in its early days it was owned and raced by Bruce McLaren, himself of course a New Zealander.
Now, the leader currently of the Woodcote Trophy is the Jaguar D-Type. The car that started on pole is the Jaguar D-Type, but it is not the same Jaguar D-Type that now leads that started on pole. Jaguar D-Type car number 144 in 20th place overall. That is the car that leads the Woodcote Trophy, and the Jaguar D-Type, a very easy car to spot. He is in quite a lot of traffic at the moment, but the D-Type with its long hump behind the driver is a pretty easy spot. And there's been a change. Shane Brereton's got up into 4th place ahead of Nigel Greensall. You can't see here, but there he is as he comes onto the Hanger Straight behind the lead trio, who are absolutely racing away in these Lotus 15s. Now, they give away a lot of capacity to the Jaguar engine, the 3.8 Jaguar engined Listers, but again they are much lighter cars, and that's where the advantage comes. The 2-litre Lotus, lots added lightness, definitely compared to the big engines of Lister. There is the D-Type, kind of 144, and that with the long fin behind the driver, so that's a long-nosed D-Type. The Hanson Pockhill car, who started that one? Can't remember, I did look, yeah, it was James Hanson. So doing a great opening stint, in the car that started on position was the Pearson's D-Type. Oh, trouble for a Cooper Bobtail. Is that 38 or 39?
I think that's the 39 car.
It's crumpled, isn't it? So, yeah, so that car in the gravel, and that is down at Beckett's. So the door opens, driver looks like he's okay, and that is Nicholas James and Julian Draper's Cooper Bobtail. So it's a slight variation on the Cooper Monaco that you can see behind, with a smaller engine. Ooh, and a big moment for Andrew Kirkcaldy. Asked a bit too much of his Dunlop Racing tyres, and the front end of the Lotus washes out. These cars do not have modern front ends. It's a very different way of driving a car compared to driving any kind of modern car with aero. This is all about slow in, fast out, drive the car through the corner. You've got to bring the speed down because you don't have the grip at the front to turn in. Nigel Greensall back up to fourth. He's got back in front of the Cooper of Shane Brereton. So 88, the blue car, back in front. Again, very low rear, sort of bulbous shape to that Lister Costin. And Roger Wills now starting to attack Ollie Bryant again. Bryant just dropped back a little bit despite Kirkcaldy nearly binning it coming down in front of the BRDC suite at Brooklands. He's actually gathered himself back up. Roger Wills tossing something out of the cockpit. Was that a tear off or something? And more problems, I'm afraid, and that is the Richard Hudson, Stuart Morley, Lister Nobly. That car off at the side of the road.
And that one has a V8 Chevrolet engine in it rather than the Jaguar straight six engine.
Now they're just about to catch. Is that a Kieft? Or is that a Fraser Nash Le Mans replica? They're going by. I'm not quite sure quite what. There is a Kieft 1100 in the entry list, which I wouldn't be able to tell you what it looked like, but I sense that might be it. So 27 it is. And that is Hugh Apthorpe in a Kieft 1100. So Kieft really made their name with the 500cc Formula 3 cars. And Stirling Moss particularly started cutting his teeth in motor racing in cars like the Kieft. But I saw it on the entry list. I thought, I have no idea what a Kieft 1100 is. I don't think I've ever seen one. Have now.
Despite the sounding Kieft, strange sounding name, it's Cyril Kieft, an Englishman or Welshman. Based in Swansea, in Birmingham.
And I thought I dropped a clanger attributing a busted song to McFly. Well, you can't go home to the marches after that.
Stirling Moss was, in fact, a director of Kieft as another big lock-up for Andrew Kirkcaldy coming into the same corner, into Brooklands. So he's having trouble getting the car stopped coming into Brooklands. Front left locking up. Yep. That allows Ollie Bryant to get a little bit closer. And a big effort to get past Bryant by the car in third place, that of Roger Wills, going into Copse last time, which didn't work out. But it did slow Bryant a little bit in having to defend his line into Copse. But now he's really charging on towards Andrew Kirkcaldy as they come into Copse once again. And Roger Wills not as close this time as they turn in those three similar cars.
Well, unless something odd happens, that is going to be our podium, because Roger Wills has set the fastest lap, 1 minute 22.3, but they're all in the 23s at the moment. The group behind, Nigel Greensall, Shane Brereton, 127s, hand out the cockpit for Ollie Jarvis. Oh, okay, so yellow flags.
Ollie Bryant,
rather, and Roger Wills. So there must be yellow flags down there. As we've got a car park there. There are yellow flags as they come through Maggots into the Beckett's S's. And they are coming by. That is a Fraser Nash Le Mans replica. And then they are going to catch the Sebring Sprite, an Austin Healey Sprite with the Sebring 12-hour racing developments. Now here comes Wills on the inside. The car that is stationary is just about out of the way. Hopefully that's not going to cause us too many problems. And that is the Nick James Julian Draper Cooper bobtail that we saw parked a lap or so ago. Leaders are together, and they've gone by the Sebring Sprite. Roger Wills has gone by Oliver Bryant as well. So Andrew Kirkcaldy, he's gone by the Sprite. And this little Austin Healey Sprite with the aerodynamic hardtop and the very different looking front end, and there's a real problem for our race director. Aston Martin upside down, and that is likely to bring out a red flag. That's Tim Stamper's DB24, and out to the cockpit for Ollie Bryant. And I sense that is likely to be a near immediate red flag. As long as the driver gets out okay, then we may survive under safety car. It's a long 50-minute race. Aston Martin DB24, Lotus Mark 6 and Jaguar XK120 coming down towards us as the leaders come up behind them. Safety car will be scrambled. And the driver is getting out of the Aston Martin, which is very, very good news indeed. Well, that's a disappointing end to the festival for Tim Stamper. And the DB24 Aston, one of the Feltham Aston Martins. Yeah. He's got himself into a real tank slapper, and the car has gone over to the front wheel. Just see how little friction there is in that right front hub, still rotating. I wonder if that's part of the story.
And we do have, we have a replay.
So the only thing anybody cares about is the soft contents. Cars can be rebuilt, human beings take a lot more rebuilding, and Tim Stamper understandably doesn't really want to leave the car, but he will need to. Hopefully a quick trip to the medical centre will see him a-okay. Safety car has picked up some of the field.
And throw into the mix that we're coming up to our pit window.
Yeah, pit window is not yet open.
Not quite, no. Another 3 minutes and 15 seconds and it will be, so it's very likely that we will get, or the drivers will have the opportunity to do their mandatory stop under a safety car, which is clearly the most efficient way of doing it.
Well, you see Graham and Alan Bull's Jaguar XK120 coming in, and the universal hand signals that says there's something wrong with it and I haven't got a clue what. So unfortunately it looks like that car might be in trouble. That was Graham Bull who was bringing it in, and Andrew wandering across from the pit wall to see what was going on there. One of our Woodcote Trophy teams. Just saw little Kieft going through shot, and bits and pieces strewn around the crash site. So that is down in the loop.
It's lost a wheel.
It has lost a wheel now.
Right, that probably...
Cause or effect?
Well, the spinner is still on the wheel, so I suspect cause, and the hub broke. And the XK in the pit lane. This is not within the mandatory pit stop window. 151 a problem. The Graham and Alan Bull XK120. And a slap of the steering wheel says, nah, that's that. We're out.
Well, we've heard not happy, no. Failure to proceed is,
went well.
as Gary Pearson gets helmeted up, failure to proceed is part of life with older cars. But when you spend a lot of time and effort preparing for a meeting like this and the car then lets you down, yeah, very disappointing. We heard from Nicola Hume a couple of times over the weekend from the Kidney Research UK stand, and there's a little bit of entertainment going on today there. The nurse versus crew challenge. So, nurses versus pit stop crew challenge taking place at 12:30. The pit stop crew, historic racer and modern racer and former British touring car champion Andrew Jordan and his crew will be taking on a group of nurses, not changing tyres on the car, but servicing a kidney dialysis machine. Now, I know the Jordan family have got a lot of history with a lot of different machinery. I'm not sure they've yet prepped or worked on kidney dialysis machines, so that can be quite entertaining. Andrew Jordan, I'm sure he will be egged on by Dad Mike as well, because when isn't he? He and his crew will be taking on a group of nurses in a race to change a kidney dialysis machine. So that'll be 12:30 at Kidney Research UK. Chance to mention that while the track is relatively quiet, and will remain relatively quiet as every single car comes into the pit lane now. Now the Lotus Mark 6 you're looking at has just come in. Sort of running relatively okay. I think he's being waved out again because he might have come in too early. Not seeing that the pit stop window is open yet. Oh, you said so now, yes? Okay, that's good. So had they made a change, or is he going to have to go around and go again? I don't think they made a change at that stage.
No, he'll have to go around again. He was too early. This one may not have been. That's the number 23 car come in to do its mandatory stop, which is Andrew Smith and Dan Smith in their Cooper Monaco. And plenty of cars coming in now, also in a similar car, the 149 of Shane Brereton.
Well, that's the car that was battling with Nigel Greensill and will take up the cudgels against John Spears. So now obviously Greensill and Spears will have to stop next to each other, otherwise somebody's going to be doing a lot of running down the pit lane. Grey Skies, I've had ignore those. Ignore them, they'll go away.
They'll blow by.
They're actually, they will blow by because they're not coming from the normal direction of rain travel here at Silverstone. There's the 88 car, so Nigel Greensall is out. John Spears is in already. So John has vacated 152, the Lister Knobbly, the more rounded and voluminous of the cars. John heads off. Was that the Knobbly just in front?
It was
a Knobbly just in front, yes.
It was. BHL 152 is the registration number. He runs on that car. BHL being Brian Lister, and the chassis numbers of the cars, all BHL, I believe. So they managed to do their balletic pit stop.
Right, there go the Lotus 15s. Now, have they stopped? No, not yet. So when I said it'll be a whole field pit stop, it wasn't actually. In fact, only 4 of our lead group came in and a couple of other stragglers. Now I think a few more cars are coming in. Now those are not necessarily the lead group, but those aren't either.
That's Billy Bellinger coming in the 29. That's the Lola Mark 1 prototype. So there are other Lola Mark 1s out there, but this is the actual prototype car, which Keith Arlers owns. And we saw a shot of Keith Arlers on the live stream pictures getting ready to jump in. That's a car which always surprises in its finishing position, as we give another shout out for Breakdown Bob, because there he is, or there's Hillary anyway.
You can almost hear the pounds, can't you? You're gonna have to roll that Aston over its doors and wings.
Billy Bellinger getting out, and Keith Arlers getting in the checkered helmet. Keith, also a great collector of Morgans as well.
Yep. Nice family podium shot. Yay! Excellent stuff. Excellent stuff. That's what we like to see. Because if motor racing isn't about fun, then what on earth is it about?
That's a very sorry sight, isn't it?
Really is, yeah. So look, as you said, looks like a hub failure because the spinner was still attached to the wheel, which means the spinner is still attached to the wheel and the hub, but it's not attached to the car any longer. So yeah, that's a real shame, and unfortunately very costly indeed. Just saw Tim De Silva stopped in the pit lane in his car.
There goes Keith Arlers in the prototype. Also out racing is the Lotus 11 prototype, the first time it's ever raced in the UK. It went straight to America. Car number 36, Eric Stays, the Belgian driver, has brought it out for the very first time in the UK. It left these shores, sold to America, and brought back recently.
Ollie Bryant having service to car number 1. He came in from 3rd place in his Lotus 15. You can see they've got matching gaffer tape, well, pretty much matching. The yellow's a pretty good match for the yellow. The green is a bit less BRG. What they're doing is adding more blanking to the radiator and the brake ducts to try and make sure the car stays up to temperature rather than too cool, because too hot and too cool are both not good news either for an engine or brakes. There's a great shot of a Le Mans replica Fraser Nash.
And replica called, it was built in period. It's not something that's been manufactured recently. The factory would run, Fraser Nash would run the cars at Le Mans, and then they'd build copies, replicas as they called them, and then fairly wealthy people would say, I want one of those. And the Aston Martin, meantime, being craned away. Sometimes, Martin, you see a car upside down, they roll it over, and you think, actually, it's not that badly damaged, but I'm afraid that one is not in that.
That door is, and that rear quarter, and the front wing, and the roof. Yeah, that's going to be, I'm afraid, an expensive rebuild. Aston Martin DB24, the last of the line, built in the Feltham Works before they moved to Newport Pagnell. Aston Martin now at Gaydon in Warwickshire. So a fabulous looking thing. Unfortunately, a little bit second hand. The good news though, and far less costly to fix the car than its driver Tim Stamper would have been. So really good news to see him scurrying away and, well, wandering away and looking in pretty fair fettle.
We had a long shot there of the pack of cars coming down the straight, and right in the middle of it all was Ollie Bryant, but I couldn't see where the other two leading Lotus 15s were in the queue, so we'll perhaps get an idea when they come over the timing line exactly how this is all shaken out.
Well, right now the timing screen shows that John Spires is both first and second, and so is Nigel Greensall, and John Ketley is a weatherman. So they out. Oh, a red flag. Okay, I did slightly fear that might be the case. Now, that means that we are going to have to wait to see. I do think we'll get a restart because there is time left, but there is just quite a lot to be sorted out. So the deal with the red flag is, the standard deal is, you drive around to the grid, you stop on the grid, and you await further instruction. Now, having said that, almost everybody has stopped, not everybody has stopped. And I have to say, again, I don't quite understand why. There are now all the non-stoppers now, I think. Lots of Jags, the Mark 6 Lotus coming in for its actual pit stop, and a couple of Aston Martins and so on. They're all coming down the pit lane. Now I think they are stopping, but that is going to give the organisers an awful headache, because where now do you make the grid? In theory, you would like to restart the race with everybody in the correct order having done all of their pit stops, but not everybody has. So they are making them now. There are spots of water at Luffield, there are spots of water in the pit lane, and there is quite a lot of fluid still to be cleared up there by the marshals. So we are ignoring the cloud. It's mostly going to go by us, but there are a lot of cars now coming down the pit lane. In fact, a lot of the competitive cars coming back through the pit lane where they've been directed to go.
The standard procedure is you regrid in the order that the cars cross the line at the time of the red flag, but as you've quite rightly said, some cars had pitted, others hadn't.
And could not be at a worse time, could it? So the geniuses at TSL are going to have to work some real wizardry to try and come up with a restart grid. I think they're going to have a few minutes to do it in, though, and then we should hopefully be able to grid the cars and lead them away. I think the simplest way will be to grid them where the few cars have stopped out there by the wing, and then lead them round behind the safety car. But, of course, most of our cars that are front runners will have to come through this group. You can see a couple of Lotus 15s in that little pack.
Yes,
Roger Wills was there, I saw.
They've come into the Heritage pit lane, which is nowhere near the start line. It's
no,
half
well,
a lap away.
This is where most of the field has ended up. As you can see, there's only about 8 or 12 cars here actually on the grid. There's Roger Wills, so saw him in the middle. In theory, according to the timing screen, Andrew Kirkcaldy and Ollie Bryant were just outside the top 4.
I get the feeling that the clerk of the course let that race run under safety car for a couple of laps to try and encourage everyone to do their pit stop.
Exactly.
Because the real problem we've got now is, what do you do with the people who didn't pit, who've now pitted under red flag? But the pit window was still open, so I'm afraid I haven't been able to find the regulation for how that works.
I'm afraid he gave you 2 clear laps to make a pit stop behind the safety car. If you didn't, I think that's hard cheese.
We'll see.
Genuine. I mean, the opportunity was there, and I absolutely agree with you. I think that's exactly probably what he was doing. Certainly, World Endurance Race Director Eduardo Freitas would have done exactly that. Try and allow everybody at least once past the pit before you go red, or before you enter full course yellow, if they need to go into the pit lane. Now, of course, everybody did need to go into the pit lane to make driver stops, but if you didn't, you had 2 laps in which to do it, and you didn't do it behind the safety car. When were you going to do it? I think there might be a number of cars. There were only 5 or 6 who I think hadn't stopped. I think they are very possibly going to lose out just because of the utter carnage that's otherwise going to have to count back to laps before the pit lane opened, where there was no disruption to the flow, if you see what I mean. And I don't know if there's a regulation that allows them to do that. Well, we had a brief, if rather heavy, storm yesterday sweep through that soaked half the track, the old pit lane area, and left the rest of it bone dry, and actually bizarrely in sunshine. So you got the weird sight of cars coming by the old pit lane almost obliterated by spray and a sea of water, and then emerging into bright sunshine down through the Beckett's S's and around past the wing, like they were on a different race circuit on a different day. Now then, we will leave the race director and the timing crews to try and determine, with the wisdom of Solomon, how to restart this race. Let's hear a little bit more from Nicola Hume.
So you're joining me on the roof terrace of the brand Genesis, which is actually right in the hub of everything electric based here at Silverstone this weekend. And I'm joined by Stefan Bazier, who is head of sustainability here at Silverstone. So are you having a brilliant weekend so far?
Brilliant weekend so far. Thanks a lot, Nicola. Yeah, we're very pleased, to host that interview in the middle of Switch Live, which is the area dedicated, as you said, to EV. Obviously, Silverstone is known for 75 years of motorsports, but you can see, how things are evolving. Now sustainability is in everybody's day-to-day. So we really want here at Switch, at the festival, to make sure that there is this EV, this future presentation of what motorsports, what the automotive industry will be in the future. So we've chosen the right place.
So there's lots of different things that you have changed over the years that you've been here at Silverstone, that you have changed to become more sustainable, things like solar panels, for example.
Exactly. It's been 2 years now that we've launched Switch to Zero, which is our sustainability strategy. The first thing that you do when you have such a big facility is to concentrate on a couple of key points, and energy is obviously a big one. We're consuming here a lot of energy, as you can imagine. So one of our first initiative was to cover the wing, which is our exhibition center, with solar panels, which will then generate, since May this year, 13% of our overall energy consumption.
That's fantastic. Is there any advice that you can give to the people that are here this weekend to stay as sustainable as possible while they are here at the event?
Well, one of the first things that they have to do is try to segregate waste. We try, here at Silverstone, to have two types of containers. It's not very complicated. One black for general waste, one green for what is recyclable, like plastics and cans. So we want to make sure that people do segregate properly.
So are there any future plans for everything happening here at Silverstone? I know we have P1 Fuels here that's going to change things fuel-wise. It's not just electric, is it?
Exactly. I think the future within the combustion engine sector is to have sustainable fuel or fossil-free fuel. And this is what we've been doing with P1 Fuels, partnering with the festival this week, demonstrating that it is possible to have sustainable fuel for combustion engine cars.
Excellent. Stefan, thank you very much for your time. So yeah, if you are here this weekend, recycle wherever you can. You will spot the bins dotted around, and make sure you've got your refillable water bottles as well. There are lots of refillable points, aren't there?
Yeah, there are more than 27 all around the site. So yes, please use your water bottle, refill it, at all our water points, and that will help a lot, in obviously generating less plastic.
Excellent. Stefan, thank you very much.
The message as ever, reduce, and slip, slap, slop, although not necessarily right at the moment. However, if you haven't got sun protection, I think for most of the day you are probably going to need it. The Met Office have not forecast much rain. And Nicola, and I'm putting this firmly on Nicola, she said, I heard it was supposed to rain around 10 o'clock. Well, it's midday, but nobody told me it was going to rain, so it's Nicola's fault. Meanwhile, clear-up operations continue for the Woodcote Trophy and Stirling Moss Trophy race, and with about a dozen cars on the grid and most of the others in the pit lane, where I think they've been sent by the marshals, it actually makes sense to have them all. They're all in a long line here in the pit lane. There is another lane, so you can then take a car out of position and go, right, you go out first, and then you over there, you're out second, and so on. We've got, a dozen cars, maybe 15 cars on the grid. We'll have to shuffle some of these around as well. But the marshals are going to be responsible for that, guided by race control. And timekeepers and race control are now trying to confer to figure out exactly what the real order of the race is. I don't think it's going to materially change the race that much. Two things to note. This was a 50-minute race. The clock has stopped with 29 minutes remaining. All of the cars who needed to do driver changes, which is all of them, have had their pit stop. So that means that when we are ready to go racing, it'll be about 25 minutes of green flag racing, no driver changes, have at it, boys. So there we go, that's where we are at the moment. We're going to take a quick pause and bring you back up to speed when we've got a little bit more to tell you.
So I've come down to the village green again because I've come to meet the official insurance sponsor. So basically this is Adrian Flux. They've got some beautiful cars around and I'm going to have a quick chat with Grant. Hi Grant.
Hi Jodie, you okay?
I'm very, very good. So number one, I want to say happy 50th anniversary.
Thank you very much. Yeah, this year we are celebrating our 50 years in business. So what better place to celebrate it than here, sunny Silverstone.
So tell us a little bit more about the insurance company.
So yeah, it's a family-run business formed in 1973, and yeah, we're here now with 50 years. We made our name as a specialist broker. We insure lots of classics, modified, imported, so more the kind of niche products, motorsport as well. Hence us being here. So yeah, you name it, we can pretty much insure it.
Fantastic. And also, very excitingly, apparently someone's told me you got some very nice gifts to win.
Yes, yeah, bit of fun today. So it's a family event as well, so we wanted to give something back. So we've got a bit of a prize draw going on, so you can win a drift day in a caterum, which
serious?
Yeah, so basically you can take that out next year, have a drift day. Yeah, what better vehicle to spin around and have a laugh than a caterum?
Very joyous moments in a caterum going sideways.
Silly fun. But speaking of silly fun, yeah, I think we should really get you to have a go. So we're doing a beanbag toss. We are giving away some bits and pieces, but
okay, well,
I'll hold the
have
microphone.
To take that.
Yeah.
Right, and I've got to get it. So if I get, hang on, let me put that down.
So you have to go for the golden shot, I'm afraid. So you've got 3 chances. Oh, it came back out. Okay, we'll count that. Well done. That was fantastic. You've won. You get a selection of prizes as well, and you're entered into the competition as well. So congratulations.
The Woodcote Trophy and Stirling Moss Trophy race is suspended for the moment. Red flag is out after an incident that involved the DB24 Aston Martin of Tim Stamper. Driver Tim Stamper is okay. The car has been cleared away. I'm afraid that is going to be a while before it sees the light of day again, I think. And the fluids and so on are being cleared up. Now, the red flag came out after a couple of laps of the pit stop window being open, so almost everybody that needed stops made them. There are about half a dozen cars that did not. However, although we've got about a dozen cars on the grid, the rest of them are in the pit lane. They were sent in there by the marshals down at Luffield. So the deal now is that when the track is ready to go, we will try and send the cars out and get them onto the grid in the order in which they were when the race was suspended, and then they will have one formation lap behind the safety car to try and see where it's damp and where it isn't, and then it will be a charge to the checkered flag for probably around 25 minutes. At least we're making that assumption, because that would be the straightforward and standard way of doing it. It is raining a little. I'm going to look and check. I don't need to check my puddle, because I can now hear with my headphone off one ear that it's actually raining harder on the roof of the commentary booth. So the safety car is out, just checking on track conditions so that the race director knows what a driver's view of the circuit rather than a marshal's view of the circuit is, or a camera's view of the circuit is. Not raining as heavily as it did in yesterday morning's big cloud burst, but it is still fairly wet on the old Heritage pits side of the circuit. Now, yesterday, the other side of the circuit, down near the wing at Stowe and so on, was bone dry, no matter how wet it got here. Let's follow the car around and see where we go. So you come over the brow there into Maggots, down into the Beckett's S's, And it is fairly damp there as well. I can see over at the wing that it is wet. So most of you who are watching and listening here at Silverstone, you'll be able to tell without me waffling on just what the weather is like with you. Not as wet here as we come through the Beckett's S's, but damp enough to make life entertaining for the bigger engine cars as well as for the littlers. But the wetter it is, the more chance that the smaller engined, lighter, nimbler cars are going to make it through, I think, and so that could be quite entertaining.
And no issue with whether you're on wet or dry tyres like we had in the saloon race yesterday, where we had half the track dry and half of it wet, and we were wondering who was on slicks and who was on wets. Well, you don't have that in this class of racing. They're all on treaded tyres.
There's Nigel Greensell. He is currently first and second, and he is in the car that he has just taken over, which is shown as being in second place. The car was started by John Spears. John Spears is in the car that Nigel Greensell started, which is shown as being first. Now, it's not first in the queue, but it is first on the time. So timing screens haven't reset themselves. Now here we go. So we do have, okay, I'll correct myself. We do not have, but somebody has a grid for the restart. And that means that cars are going to be shuffled around. So what you're seeing there is the beginning of a lot of pushing. Richard Hudson and Stuart Morley's Lister Nobly being pushed along. So the marshals have been told, okay, that car number 2, that's going to be 14th, or, oh no, pushed out the way. Okay, so why are they pushing it out of the way? Because it's going to be a long way further back, or because it won't start? Possibly because it won't start, actually, because...
Yes, I think that car, the driver may have said to them, look, I can't get this car going, get me off the grid. Well, not grid, the pre-grid, if you like. But these cars have been told to start, so these are in the old pits between Woodcote and Copse Corner, and they will be released to drive gently round to the new area, the Hamilton Straight, for the restart.
Now that number 6 Jag that you can see at the front, that's a Curia Cos Jaguar XK120, so that's in flag blue, although it doesn't appear to have a white bonnet stripe, so that's still a Curia Cos car. John Ward's car. Car number 6 was in 11th place overall. Now the safety car, okay, how's this going to work? Right, germane to the group behind the safety car, about 8 or 10 cars back, there is a green car with a yellow nose. Right beside it, directly across the screen, there's the car of Roger Wills. And where is third car? Oh, there's Roger. Oh, so there's the car that Andrew Cocotti started, 28. So I've spotted that one. Okay.
And Roger Wills is just behind Ollie Bryant.
So those were our top 3 cars before the pit window opened. So when the safety car came out before the pit window opened, they were our top 3 cars. Now on the timing screen, Nigel Greensell, John Spires, first and second. The Smiths in third place in car number 23, which is their Cooper Monaco, green car number 23, which is a sort of shorter sports car than these. And I don't think that is in this group. So they're being led at the moment by the safety car, and 250, and that is the Watson and O'Connell Lotus, and I don't think that Lotus 11 was...
That was down in 45th.
I was going to say, not close to the front at all. The Kieft behind, then an Aston Martin DB24. Group of cars in the pit lane. This is the Smith's car that was third on the timing screen.
Very unusual situation. We've actually got the safety car and green flag now come up on our screen.
Well, that's because the clock has started. The race is back underway.
Yeah, they've started the clock, but it's gone back to safety car again now. But only half the field is behind the safety car.
Right.
I assume what they'll do is come through Copse, and then this lot will join on the back of the safety car
Yes.
queue.
And in that queue are the cars that are shown as first, second, third and fourth on the timing screens ahead of the Lotus 15s that were leading. So I think you're absolutely right. I think with the wisdom of Solomon, somewhere in TSL stroke race control, they've gone, right, we'll take the group that's on the grid, we'll go by with the safety car, and then we'll open pit exit and everybody else can file in behind. And actually, that will then put the Lister Nobly, the Lister Jags and so on where they should have been, which is behind the Lotus 15 trio. There will be other cars in the way. There would have been other cars in the way because we were sort of midway through the race anyway. Yes, I think that's actually...
Yeah, there we go.
That's a logical conclusion that we didn't come to, but race control have had more experience and are better at that sort of thing than we are.
So we may not then, it doesn't look like we're going to get a regrid in order as normal red flag procedure, but then again time is against us. We did have 50 plus cars out there. Maybe they've taken a pragmatic decision and said let's just get the race going again.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right, and I think it's going to put back into roughly where they were, the battles as they were. Given that everybody has the same pit stop time, whether they're changing drivers or not, same minimum stationary time, there shouldn't have been too much shuffling of the order. So we should have the Kirkcaldy Lewis car number 28, that's the Lotus 15 with the all aluminium body panels. We should have car number 24, Roger Wills, that's the white Lotus 15 with the black highlights. We should then have the green Lotus 15 with the yellow nose, Ollie Bryant between them. Now, other cars are there, other cars would have been there, but those should be still our race leaders. And then the next little group that's left the pit lane, again, a whole bunch of moving metal in front, but look for 88, which is bright blue with 2 white stripes, and 152, which is dark blue. Those are John Spears and Nigel Greensall, and those cars will be 4th and 5th ahead of 23, the Smith Cooper Bobtail, that dark green car with the blue, red and yellow helmet in it. That's car number 23, and then that is going to be our sort of secondary battle, if you like. Right, lights are out on the safety car. We're about to go racing at a very wet Silverstone circuit. Back to green flag racing after the safety car and red flag stoppage. We have just over 23 minutes remaining in the Woodcote Trophy and Stirling Moss trophies. And there, the silver car, the aluminium bodied car, that is our race leader. We have 3 Lotus 15s, Oliver Jarvis with the green car, Luther come round the outside, and Roger Wills with the white car down the inside. Oh, in contact, Roger Wills just making contact with another of our slower cars. Just, I think, both of them getting away with that. Roger Wills still in second behind Oliver Bryant, made contact with the Jaguar Arden, that car run by Ken Pritchard-Jones and Nick Cruson. And a little further back, 144, that's the car that led the Stirling Moss Trophy, the long-nose D-type with the rear fin. The short-nose D-types don't have the fin, they just have the hump behind the driver, a little similar to the one you see here on the Lotus 15s. So the Lotuses are not at the front of the queue as it's been released onto a very wet Silverstone circuit, and they're being very, very cautious. They've had half a formation lap to figure out how wet it is. This is the first racing lap on a track that was bone dry when they stopped, and trouble in front, another of the Lotuses, that's the little Lotus 11, very similar to the Lotus 15 but with a smaller capacity engine,
Martin
looping
O'Connell
into a spin, Martin O'Connell.
And bear in mind also that the leading car, it's Mark Lewis now on board, so not only has he not driven in the wet in this car in this race, he hasn't driven the car at all, whereas Oliver Bryant and Roger Wills, who does have a little bit of panel damage there from that unfortunate coming together at Abbey, both Roger and Ollie have driven the car throughout the race.
Yeah. Well, it definitely won't help them gauge the moisture, but Roger Wills knows his Lotus 15 like the back of his hand. He's driven it in all sorts of conditions over a number of years, so he's very well placed. And Oliver Bryant, Yeah, he's got plenty of experience of Silverstone and of this car in all sorts of conditions. So this is going to be a very finely matched battle, and they have already dropped the number 28 car, started by Andrew Kirkcaldy, a long way behind them.
Coming through Beckett's, thankfully it doesn't look like that damage. The only possible effect it might have that would slow him is if that bonnet comes loose, but at the moment it looks like the little bit of damage on the side of the Roger Wills car will not slow him down. And we're now looking at this XK120, and it is an Ecurie Ecosse car. In fact, it's the last surviving Ecurie Ecosse XK120 from 1952. The others no longer exist.
That fabulous flag blue metallic colour that was adopted by Ecurie Ecosse, still part of their livery. So Oliver Jarvis leading the race from Roger Wills, and Oliver Bryant leading the race from Roger Wills. Oh goodness me! And the number 28 Lotus 15 just dropping behind, finding it very difficult. Now, we've got an interloper in 4th place that was not part of the 4th place battle earlier on. My headset falls off as I lean forward. Ollie Crosthwaite and Nick Fimbre's Cooper Monaco, car number 14, dark green Cooper Monaco. That is currently shown as 5th place. We haven't seen that car so far in the race. There's Roger Wills in 2nd place. Roger's got the fastest race lap in the dry, 2 minutes 22.3, and their last lap 2 minutes 57.6. So that's what a difference the rain makes. But Oliver Bryant really sliding around onto the Wellington straight. And they're moving now past the cars that were further up in the queue. The big Healy there, the 104. There's 14 in the version of the car, and the car behind, number 21, Michael Birch and Gareth Burnett's Lotus 15, that is not shown as on the same lap by the timing screen, is it? Oh no, that's in, it says 10th, yeah.
A lap down, but
yeah, it's a lap down.
And it's still Michael Birch at the wheel. I didn't notice whether Gareth Burnett started the car. We were told it would be Michael starting, handing over to Gareth, but Michael's still in the car.
Well, you saw Nigel Greensall there at the wheel of the Lister Nobly, and again more trouble for the Lotus 11. Martin O'Connell, that does not look like driver error. There's the damage on the car of Roger Wills. I don't think he's got tyre rub, but I'm not sure actually whether that spinner is just catching on the very thin wing that's been crumpled in up towards that left front wheel. Might be getting tyre rub on a lot of lock, but in this weather you're going to be trying hard not to use a lot of lock. We talked in a previous race with the E-types about how it's very light and floaty and you're sort of guiding it through with fingertips. I think here even more. Now Roger Wills, that is a front hinged bonnet, but it has come undone, and the 104 looping into a spin as well. That car driven by Nicholas Harris. And there is our leading car, I think, still in the Woodcote Trophy. No, it's not leading the Woodcote Trophy. The car that's leading the Woodcote Trophy at the moment, according to timing screens, is Paul and Jonathan Mortimer's Austin Healey 104, car number 450, which would appear to be in the top 10 overall. So still some work to do.
Lovely drift from Ollie Bryant there in the Lotus 15, and behind him is the only other car we can see on our live stream pictures, such as the pace of these two, is the 2nd place car, Roger Wills. But just looking at Ollie's, the angle of his head as well, he's leaning into the corner, just drifting the car through. There's our leading Woodcote Trophy car on our live stream pictures, which is the red over white Austin Healey number 450, currently leading Woodcote Trophy.
And being driven like a rally car rather than a racing car, as also befits a big Healey, because they made very good rally cars too. And look at the way that he's just gone straight by that Lotus, which by any definition should, the Michael Birch Lotus 15 should have more pace, but clearly our Healey driver, I don't know if it's Paul or Jonathan Mortimer, but whoever it is at the wheel is really has got a lot of confidence in the car and having a really good time sliding away there. So leading the Woodcote Trophy.
It should be Paul at the wheel.
Yeah, it's only now that Little Lotus comes back by him, but again he's going to look down the inside. Yeah, very confident under braking. I would think that big Healy weighs at least twice what a Lotus 15 does. It's got a much bigger engine out front. Ooh, and more trouble, looping spin there for the Elva Mark V, driven by Ralph Emmerling and Florian Brandt. And again, the Healy in the top 10 on pace. So second place in the Walter Hayes Trophy is actually car number 32 now, Cliff Gray in the Fraser-Nash Le Mans replica. Now, that is currently coming through Abbey, and if that is not a car that's built for wet weather, I don't know what is.
You're slipping into Formula Ford there. Walter Hayes, it's actually Woodcote Trophy.
Beg your pardon, Walter Hayes.
Yeah,
Woodcote Trophy.
We love Formula Ford, so that's fine.
Yeah. It's been a long weekend, everybody. Very long weekend. It's not a good excuse, but it is my only excuse. Oliver Bryant's then leading the race from Roger Wills. And Mark Lewis now nearly half a minute back in third place. And don't forget, those three cars were all together in the dry, but it's the experience of the car in this weather that's going to make the difference. And not just this car, but any car. If you don't know the car, you're going to really struggle. If you know the car inside out, hopefully you should be good to go. And it is much less wet now than it was at the restart.
And just to throw something else in the mix, in fourth place is the 152 car, now driven by Nigel Greensall, which last time around lapped 8 seconds quicker than the Lewis car just ahead, and it's 15 seconds behind at the timing line. So we'll get another time on those cars when they cross the timing line again, but it looks very much like Nigel Greensall has a very good chance of pipping the Lewis car, which led early on in the hands of Andrew Kokodi, car number 28, for that bottom step of the Stirling Moss podium.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. John Spires is about 8 seconds behind him and 3.3 ahead of Shane Brereton, who was battling with Greensall a little earlier on. Brereton in 149, the light metallic green Cooper. And again, looking at this Austin Healy, this is sort of what the big Healy was made for. There is Nigel Greensall. So Greensall now in 152. He started the race in 88, and car owner of both cars, John Spires, started in this one. And then they swapped over in the pit stop. So Nigel with the Cooper Knobbly, the less aerodynamic, but probably just as effective. The running gear, the engine, everything is the same. It's just the body that's different. That's not going to make so much difference here in these conditions. And again, see how busy the driver is. Hands on the wheel, constantly balancing power against grip. And grabbing another gear. And there is 28. So that's the gap. Nigel has visual now. Whether he knows that's the car he's chasing or not entirely sure. But Mark Lewis, car twitching under him. Don't forget, this car started on pole position, led early on, was in that mix in the top 3, but does not look at all comfortable in the rain here in this car, Mark.
And we'll throw a Woodcote Trophy battle into the mix as well, which we'll hopefully pick up on screen eventually, but they are quite there. Thank you very much. That's a wonderful team we've got in our live stream studio, because they've picked up exactly what I was going to say. The Pearson brothers D-Type Jaguar is 12 seconds a lap quicker than the Mortimer Austin Healy, and about 15 to 18 seconds behind at the last count at the line. So the Pearsons once again maybe on a podium. An amazing performance from the brothers, but this car is catching that lovely red and white Austin Healy we followed a couple of laps ago for the Woodcote Trophy.
The track is drying very fast as well. This is the short-nosed D-Type. You can see it's got the hump behind the driver, but not the long, thin fin that you can see on 144 that led earlier, the long-nosed D-Type. And of course, it's got this much shorter, rounded nose just in front of the front wheels, the long-nosed car. as you expect from its description, has a longer nose. There you go, sticks out further, more prominent, more aerodynamic. It's got that big fin at the back as well. So that is the difference between the short nose D-Type, the earlier version of the D-Type Jag, there it is, and the long nose. You can see as it comes towards you, even though you can't necessarily gauge the length of the nose, it doesn't have that big vertical fin that marks out the long nose. And the D-Type, well, this is one of the few circuits in the UK where a D-Type can even remotely start to stretch its legs. These things were designed to do 170, 180 miles an hour at Le Mans, and so now they're sort of getting up into that same territory here at Silverstone. And what is this one doing in terms of top speed? Probably not so much in the rain. Change of place, Nigel Greensall has enveloped Mark Lewis and gone straight by him. So he's up to third place, Lewis down to fourth. And how far behind is John Spires? He's 15 seconds back, but Spires, the next car back on the road, the bright blue 88 Lister Costin with the two white stripes, is just ahead of Craig Brereton by Shane Brereton by 1 second. So a great battle shaping up there for fifth place as well, behind Nigel Greensall as he moves up the order.
We've now got we did have the two Woodcote Trophy leaders on screen, but we've cut now to the 88 car, driven now by John Spears, started by Nigel Greensall, running in fifth place, but great battle with Shane Brereton, who is in the 149, just not quite in shot.
Yeah, there it is,
just
yes, coming out onto the straight. There's one car between them, Shane Brereton in that pale green metallic car number 149, and the interloper pulls out of the way, and Brereton now has John Spears in his sights.
And closed up a lot under braking, but actually slightly overran the corner, so a little bit late on the brakes for Brereton there into Brooklands, but he's made it back up again, and he's right now behind John Spears as they come through the right-hander at Luffield. Next for them will be the flat-out corner-ish in the wet. I suspect it is nearly flat through here for these two cars. Onto the old Grand Prix pit straight now, the Heritage pits, as they come out towards Cops Corner, and a great battle going on.
Much less spray, but definitely not a dry line yet. Now, they are on treaded tyres rather than big fat slicks, so that does help disperse the water. There is grip for these cars, but John Spires holding on just from Shane Brereton. This is very close indeed, and the little Cooper in front is not helping things much. I mean, he's determinedly trying to stay on the racing line, doing exactly what he should do, stay on the racing line. That's Justin and Ben Mayers in their Cooper Monaco. And despite the fact you've got quicker cars behind, the advice is always stay on the racing line, then you're at least predictable. If you wander off it, nobody's got a clue where you're going next, so you are by far safer there. Shane Brereton goes by, and trouble further up, and that is one of the cars we're expecting to fare well. Listen, after the pit stops, Andrew and Dan Smith's Cooper Monaco. So that car was in 7th place. Now the question is, how far ahead was he? He was 45 seconds nearly ahead of his closest rival, Ollie Crosthwaite and Nick Fimbra's Cooper Monaco, so he should survive that moment without losing a spot, as long as there was nothing mechanical that forced that issue. There is the car that was chasing the Cooper Monaco, going by 104 Healy.
And in the Woodcote Trophy, Gary Pearson, who's driving the Pearson Brothers D-Type, is now 7 seconds behind the leader of the Woodcote Trophy, and he's running around 7 seconds a lap quicker. So we should see a change of Woodcote Trophy lead within the next lap or lap and a half, depending on other traffic, because they've both got to navigate their way through slower cars.
Red car number 10 there, just behind. That's another Woodcote Trophy car, and that is Malcolm Paul and Will Nuttall's Lotus 15. Now that is in second place in its class in the Woodcote Trophy, but I think third overall, yeah. So again, in each of these races there are several different classes depending of the age and the engine size and the categorization originally of these cars and so on. But again, Brereton all over the curb, Shane Brereton, and spinning the wheels helplessly there, losing ground to the neater and tidier line of John Spires. They still haven't been able to get past the Cooper bobtail, and again coming in shallow, the defensive line means you overrun the corner a little bit. So Shane Brereton under pressure from John Spires, and in an entirely separate race, and a lap behind them is that number 10 Lotus, which is the Lotus 15, which is
Lotus 10.
Lotus 10 rather, sorry, which is yeah, a lap behind, but keeping pretty much the same sort of pace as you might expect with Will Nuttall at the wheel.
Indeed, yes, Will Nuttall taking the second stint in that car, normally shared by a different driver, but Will, a very, very accomplished driver. We saw him racing in the HGPCA race, and we'll see him in that again, the pre-66 Grand Prix cars. And that's actually the first Lotus ever fitted with disc brakes, that red car number 10. And it goes all the way back to pre-disc brake days.
Meanwhile, the Mayors Cooper Bobtail still in front of this little battle, which is for 5th place overall.
A little bit of damage on the front of that car as well, isn't there? The John Spears car, the blue and white number 88. Front left corner is just slightly dinked in. Doesn't seem to be affecting the car at all.
Now here is our Woodcote Trophy, Stirling Woodcote Trophy race lead. As expected, the D-Type Jag does have a performance advantage over the 3-litre Austin Healey and is exploiting it superbly.
It's 104 Healey, so it's
100 Healey, yes,
2.6 litre smaller engine.
And is that Gary Pearson again at the wheel of the D-Type?
Yeah, Gary did the second stint in that car. Still, they haven't got past Justin Mayers. Amazing in the.
But they are closing in fast on Mark Lewis, car number 28, which is just at the front of this queue. He's losing ground still to these cars. Mark Lewis's last lap, 3 minutes 2.5, as the Healey we saw being lapped a moment or two ago finds the wet grass. So this battle here, which is currently for 5th place, is soon going to be on the car that's in 4th. So look, just in front for the all-aluminium car number 28, the little Lotus 11, which is just going out a shot at the bottom. So there's 2 or 3 cars in between them. And Shane Brereton runs over the curbs again. John Spires, again, look at the Lister. It is about half as long again as the car in front. They're coming down towards us, car number 28, the first car in the queue. That's the Lotus 15. And that car is currently in 4th place overall, and may not stay there for long. Just under 4 minutes of racing, so they get this lap, and I wonder if they'll get 2 more. Depends how far up the road from there Oliver Bryant really is. This is a very inconvenient group of slower cars for both of these guys as they try and catch the little Lotus. Again, the Lotus is going to lose ground a moment or two, I think, to that 69 Cooper, which Justin and Ben Mayers are running. And just in front of them, Mark Donner, that's that dark green Lister Costin. And there's the change, D-Type is through, so Gary Pearson leading in the Stirling Woodcote Trophy race, rather. Stirling Moss Trophy race still being led by Oliver Bryant. The D-Type has left the 104 Healey behind. And there we go, 28 now, just 1 car away from the sword of Damocles.
Already lost its place to Shane Brereton, who's gone through in the Cooper Monaco.
Oh, he has, yes. I didn't spot that. I was looking behind for where he'd got to. So Shane Brereton has gone through. He's now up to 4th place ahead of Mark Lewis. And John Spires might well push him down another spot. He's looking around the outside. He's not going to get the little Lotus there, I don't think. But give him any sniff of a straight and he should go by.
Really busy part of the track. They don't seem to have really got themselves clear. Even the Lotus 10 of Will Nuttall is coming through, which is a lap behind, but the fleet little Lotus a little bit quicker in these tricky half and half conditions, which actually most drivers will probably say are worse than it being fully wet, because it's such a difficult judgment to know how quickly you can go. And
less weight and means having to slow down less, and you can carry more cornering speed. Go on, says John. Well, that is the other Lister Costin, the dark green car that we saw, just being way by, and it looks like Spears has got a problem, and this will be probably his last lap. So, dropping down the order, yeah, I think he's pulled off. He has pulled off. So that's the second time we've seen a car retiring today from the lead group within a minute or two of the checkered flag. That's a real shame for him.
That is a shame. His other car is still going.
Yes, in third place, so he will be on the podium, but not twice. He wasn't going to be twice anyway, but yeah, disappointed. Lister Costin has let itself down, him down. Meanwhile, Shane Brereton in fourth place, still working his way through traffic, and Nigel Greensell is a long way ahead of him, 30 seconds up the road, so he's definitely not going to have a chance to make up another spot. Brereton, though, does lead a different category. No, he's not. He's third place in his class in the Stirling Moss Trophy. He's just not in third place overall in the Stirling Moss Trophy.
And it's going to be very marginal whether Ollie makes it to the line. Yes, he does, with 20 seconds to spare. So we are now on the final lap of the race. Yep. We weren't 100% sure whether we'd get another lap out of this, but he got to the line in time.
Hadn't quite charted how far round he'd got versus where the clock had got to. So Roger Wills in second place across the line. And they're doing laps in the 251s, 252s, 252.0 last time round for Ollie Bryant as he caught that little bit of traffic, 251.5 for Roger Wills, 251.6 for Nigel Greensell chasing in third place, and another very disappointing retirement on the last lap of all. That's a real shame. Richard Wilson and Richard Bradley's Lotus 15. Car dates back to 1960. 63-year-old racing cars. Whoever would have thought it when they were built? I'm sure maybe when Lotus 15s were designed and conceived, they might have been thinking maybe they'd have a competition life of 2 or 3 years, maybe 4 or 5 if an impecunious privateer got hold of them. Can't imagine anybody ever thought designing any of these things that 60 years later they'd still be being ragged around circuits exactly as their makers intended. There's Nigel Greensell in third place, but here is Oliver Bryant, the race leader. Halfway round the final lap, coming past the team in this historic pit lane here at Silverstone. Roger Wills remains in second place. Wills has the fastest lap of the race, but does not have the lead. When they restarted after the red flag in the wet conditions, that's when Ollie Bryant's advantage really came in. He just picked up and ran away. 15 seconds clear now of Roger Wills, and Roger just allowing, I think, Ollie to have his head. Figured out pretty quickly probably that he wasn't able to maintain that pace.
And I've just noticed that in the Woodcote Trophy, that red number 10, the Lotus 10, is actually snapping at the heels, if not already past the Mortimer's Austin Healey, so that could be a change for second.
So that's a big charge from Will Nuttall. Well, here is Ollie Bryant heading down the Hanger Straight for the final time. The Royal Automobile Club's Woodcote Trophy and Stirling Moss Trophy race will be won overall by the Lotus 15, car number 1 of Ollie Bryant, driving solo. Started on the outside of the front row of the grid. Battled early on with the similar cars of Andrew Kirkcaldy and Roger Wills. Wills in second place, the Kirkcaldy and Lewis car fading in the second part of the race. But it is victory for Ollie Bryant. Roger Wills will be around 15 seconds behind him. There is the Kiwi, the car that he knows so well. A little bit of damage after contact with the back marker away from the restart. Wills takes second place, but it is not a Lotus 15 1, 2, 3, because some way behind them, but charging up the order, is the Lister Nobly, the Jaguar engine Lister of John Spears and Nigel Greensell. Greensell and Spears also driving the Lister Costin, the bright blue number 88 car, and they were very well placed with both cars before the stoppage, but the Costin not making it to the flag. So John Spears, Nigel Greensell claim third overall, and winning the Stirling Moss Trophy, winning the Woodcote Trophy rather, will be John and Gary Pearson. The short-nosed D-type, another fabulous product of Browns Lane and the Jaguar competition department in Coventry. Car number 17 coming towards the checkered flag and victory. Another win in another Jag for the Pearsons. And there will be a change, quite possibly, as you see fourth place come across line, Shane Brereton. There's the Lotus 10 ahead of the Healey, so there was a change for second place. The Healey 104 that led away after the restart in the Woodcote Trophy ends up still on the podium in third place, and that is a really solid result for them. But Will Nuttall bringing the Lotus 10, car number 10, that was started by Malcolm Paul, through into second place behind the Pearsons D-type, and 450, Paul and Jonathan Mortars, Healey 104, taking a fine third place. And there is our overall race winner. So Ollie Bryant picks up another trophy. Such an accomplished historic racer. You can imagine that he will be still winning races in another 2 or 3 decades from now. And there's Roger Wills. The ex-Bruce McLaren Lotus 15 will need a little bit of fettling. Looks perfectly good on this side. A little bit battle-scarred on the other. And third place, dwarfing the little Lotuses, comes the Lister Nobly, Nigel Greensell, taking over midway through from the car's owner, John Spears.
Well survived.
Manages to get out of the car without falling over. And John Spears, unfortunately, in the Lister Costin, pulling out of the race with just a few minutes left. There's the fourth place car, Shane Brereton. Had a really strong race in that as well, and managed to overhaul the fifth place Kirkcaldy and Lewis Lotus 15 that was started from pole position and was in the lead battle early on. So the Pearsons do it again.
Congratulations.
This time the short-nosed D-type is victorious.
What was it, that little Healey? Yeah, the little Healey hasn't stopped, hasn't done anything. It was like just a minute in front. Yeah. We thought you'd work it out very quickly.
Two brothers having a good old chat there about who was where. John saying it was that little Healey.
Yeah.
And that little Healey finished in third place. Brilliant.
Really did. I mean, what a great result for the team as well. There's Will Nuttall, calf backed up through the field in the Lotus 10. Car number 10 into second place. I think he's going to, a little shake of the hands. Well done, but also probably thank you for giving me racing room, because Will Nuttall knew he was up against it in terms of time, trying to make that pass for second place. At least I'm assuming he knew. I mean, how do you know who you're chasing in a field that's this huge? There's no ship-to-shore radio, there's no dash telemetry.
Yes, I think good old pit boards.
Yeah.
Or maybe the strategy is just go as fast as you can, overtake everybody in front of you.
And I guess then when you get to the collecting area at the end, the guy that pulls up beside you, oh right, you, okay. When did I pass you? Last lap before? Yeah, very good stuff. So. The Royal Automobile Club Woodcote Trophy and Stirling Moss Trophy. In the Woodcote Trophy, the Pearsons D-Type Jaguar claiming overall victory ahead of the Lotus 10 and the Healey 104. And in the Stirling Moss Trophy, it was Ollie Bryant who won the race outright ahead of Roger Wills and John Spears, Nigel Greensell. Shane Brereton in fourth, ahead of Kirkcaldy and Lewis Lotus 15, and the Smiths in their Cooper Monaco. So a race that was interrupted by a safety car and then a red flag and rain, as well as the anticipated pit stops. And our best wishes to Tim Stamper, whose Aston Martin DB24 suffered a hub failure and rolled into retirement. He fortunately is out and seemingly A-OK. And so, unfortunately, he does face a little bit, I think, of work and expense to get that DB24 back to the previously pristine look that it had at the start of the race. But the good news is he is okay. One of the biggest fields of the Silverstone Festival, the Lotus 15s at the front of the Woodcote Trophy and Stirling Moss Trophy, interrupted by a roll for the Aston Martin DB24 Tim Stamper, who was all right. After red flags in the pit stops, we restarted on a streaming wet circuit. Roger Wills making contact with one of the back markers as he chased the race leader, Oliver Bryant. Conditions very, very different from how they had been before the stoppage. Even if you'd been out in both parts of the race, it was still difficult. In the Woodcote Trophy, short-nosed D-type of the Pearson brothers taking victory. Ollie Bryant winning the Stirling Moss Trophy and the race overall from the similar Lotus 15 of Roger Wills. John Spears and Nigel Grinsell in third place in the Lister Novelty.